Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Untitled Reviews. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Lawman, Reeves, Season 1, Episode 4. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we are dancing around a little bit timeline-wise. Once again, it's going to be so interesting considering, I know that, like I said, I believe Bass dies when he's in his 70s, so there's still plenty of years to cover. But like I said, I know this is only covering 2 books in a trilogy, so I'm assuming the third book mainly covers the later to end parts of his life, maybe. I don't know. To be fair, we only time skip 2 years, but is it that way you just kind of because they are going to be telling a lot of story in only 8 episodes. Because not unless things change, it seems like this is a one and done. It is meant to be a miniseries, but that I guess that could always change. But either way, when we met up with Bass and he's talking to that woman, I'm like, what's going on here? And then he introduced himself with a different name. I'm like, wait, are you undercover? I was like, that's interesting. I guess it never crossed my mind to think that would be something you would do. You get more flies with honey type of situation, right? So it's right, play it low key, play it unassuming, and he was after her sons, which even she admits, her sons are little hellions, but at the end of the day, despite them breaking her heart, she still can't, fully let them go, them being the rambunctious rascals that they are. Because one of the brothers is the actor who plays Dano in Big Sky, and the other one, was it Chris Coy? Seen him in so many things. I want to say The Peripheral was the most recent thing I've seen him in. But either way, ended up taking them both in. It seems like they're wrangling up a whole bunch of people at a time rather than kind of going one at a time and dropping them off. It's you wrangle quite a few. It's been 2 years, and who knows, in this time frame, in that 2-year time frame, how long Bass has been gone. Obviously, he's got Billy by his side, so was able to kind of swing that, I guess. The Judge Parker was willing to listen to him because it's not like Billy killed anyone. Yeah, he scams some people, robs some people, no one died, and he wasn't the main one behind it. He was part of a crew, so I guess because of sway from Bass kind of got him on his side. So, but either way, he wrangled up all these people, and there's this story that one of the people there, his name's Ramsey, which that actor, I wish I'd remembered his name because it bugs me. He's one of those actors where you've seen him and stuff. 2 things I know him from, well, it's actually technically multiple things, but most people might know him from Stranger Things. He's one of the deputies. He's the one that ended up becoming sheriff after Hopper, quote-unquote, died. I think it's Powell, but we find out in season 4 he became the new sheriff, so there's that. But I also know him from the Netflix Marvel shows. He was I forgot his character's name, but he basically was a small, was it Turk? He was a small time criminal that would pop up in all the shows. I want to say Iron Fist might be the only one he didn't pop up in, because I know he had interactions with Luke Cage, Punisher, and Daredevil. But I don't remember. I feel like he might have been in Jessica Jones, but I don't remember. And I feel like I don't remember him being in an Iron Fist. I don't think he was in season 1. Maybe he was in season... I don't remember. But he was just one of those smaller recurring characters across all their shows. I thought was kind of interesting. But what I thought was interesting is he tells his story of Mr. Sundown. So I was looking into it. Any Google research results I got were all related to the show, so I don't know if this was some real thing, but it's pertaining to the show. I'm immediately thinking Mr. Sundown might be a certain character we know that we haven't seen pop up in quite a few episodes, but we know he's going to be part of the show because he's in the intro, so I'm it's gotta be him, right? But essentially he's kind of this slave catching boogeyman that he'd come after anyone, and basically there's a ghost story about how he basically built a plantation off of blood and bones, and he was kind of a dick. But I guess it's why he went out of his way to scare everyone, because he also knew, I guess maybe who knows how long these as whisperings are. I mean, because of the slave catching aspect about it, because he specifically did that because he saw how much of a reaction Bass got out of it. He got out of Bass from it. So I'm assuming it's a story that even when he was a slave, I guess like every slave has heard those stories, those rumblings. So like maybe outside of that, not too many people have. I mean, I guess it also depends on where you're from, because it could just be that specifically a story based around Arkansas where this all started for, like, so maybe that's what that's supposed to represent. Like, oh, it's specifically, it's a rumor for, like, if you're from the Arkansas area, you've heard of Mr. Sundown, but maybe not everyone else has. So he was trying to like get to everybody. So then, like, in the middle of the night, he ended up like he tried to go after Bass, but then Bass like beat the brakes off of him. But then it turns out like one of the other people they had captured, he like cut the dude's face off. I was like, did you go full cannibal or something? But it's like, are you going to tell me Mr. Sundown? And he was like, no, I did it. But the fact of the matter is, it's like, why did he go complete psycho like that? I mean, the fact is he did specifically choose a white guy, so I don't know if that was him trying to get back in some shape or form. Like, that's unclear. The guy might just be a sociopath, but it might also have been like, he was going to kill Bass because, like, well, you capture me and you're going to take me, so I'm like, I might as well go out swinging. But also, like, I just wanted to make an example of this particular guy, so... Because there's a few white guys there, but he chose one particular guy. I guess he saw, like, weakness in him, like, oh, you're the weakest link, I could get to you. Like, I don't know what that is. Because part of me was almost wondering, because I was like... Because it did seem like he was trying to feed the legend of Mr. Sundown, but it just seemed like he was also just doing his own thing. I mean, hell, even Billy wanted to put him... Billy wanted to put him down afterwards, because it's like, this guy's kind of a monster, but regardless of it all, it's like, yeah, there may not be any laws out here, but God kind of put me in a position where I am the only... Then I'll be the one law that's out here, because it's he was told by... Cheryl, like, back in episode 2, that these lands are lawless, so... But Bass is going after another person. What was it? Silas Cobb. And ends up tracking him down. Because it's like the only thing he's done is like he's selling horses, but they're stolen horses that he's peddling. So... And maybe if Billy had kind of stayed his position like he was supposed to, but instead he got distracted by a young lady that he finds so fascinating. He's like, oh, I'm gonna marry you. And she's like, dude, I get proposed to like every week or whatever. Some person came in for my company and it's just like, oh, they love me so much they want to marry me. And like the fact is, you know what they call me, what my name is? It's 2-bit. 1 bit for me and 1 bit for the house type of situation. It's like, she's like 3-bit for you. Basically like 3 bits and you can call me whatever you want. So I guess meaning like in the end of the day, like, the house gets what it's owed, I get what I owe, but hey, you give me a little extra, you can call me I'll be whatever you want me to be. So, but Billy really kind of hit it off of her. She gave him that book and he was like, don't you want to finish it? She's like, yeah, they all end the same. And I'm like, it feels like that's a little representative of her story. It's like, whatever that book says, there's so many women have kind of lived this life that I already know how my story's going to play out, and these stories are just a reminder of that. Like, there ain't no changing that. There ain't no, like, happily ever after type of situation. So, but this story this episode ended up taking kind of a sad turn for Billy. Because it's so interesting, too, because she had told Billy about, like, the way that gun, it's an older model, and the fact of the matter is the kickback of it, and you have to aim a little higher. And even later on, Bassett said you should have aimed higher, because it is a thing of, if you're going to put a man down, you don't want to prolong his suffering, because that wound Silas ended up getting, like, it dragged it out, which has good and bad, but sometimes it's like, you might just want to end someone's suffering. I mean, Bass already has that perspective, too, because of what happened to Charlie back in episode 2. Like, all that pain he was in, he, like, put him out of his misery, so... But maybe it's also just supposed to be indicative of where, like, that's what you're supposed to do, not only for their sake, but also your sake, because, like, you don't want to take the chance that the person you're trying to take down gets another shot off on you before they die. It might be that, but I think it is mostly from Bass being like, no, it needs to be like, it's a mercy to put someone down in a single shot. Don't prolong it. Don't make them like have to be suffering by the end. It's just it's easier just to kind of take. But it's like my point earlier was maybe if Billy was still in the position he was, like things wouldn't have popped off in that situation. Billy just kind of like freaked out and fired the shot and just didn't realize what was going to happen. It's like this is the first time he's ever killed anyone, you know. And I think that's an important lesson Bastar's trying to get across to him. It's like, yes, Silas may have been a bad guy. He may have been a thief, an adulterer, a criminal, all this and that. But at the end of the day, he was a man. And it's like, he's like, this badge allows us to choose whether or not to kill someone or save someone or kill someone. This badge allows us and gives us the power to choose. But he's like, even I don't know what's right. He's like, and so how would you? That was more so an indication of like, I'm an older man. I'm older than you. You're a young buck. Like, if I, an older person, don't know, like, how would a youngster like you know? He's like, at the end of the day, the only person who's going to know is God. God's going to be the only one that knows if what we've done here is right. All we can do is try to do our best. But it's like, yeah, think of these bullets, every single one being a man's life. The fact of the matter, kind of like, think about that before you kind of pull the trigger. I mean, that's why Bass himself is always hesitant. Unless necessary, I will not pull the trigger. If it's like to defend my life and do what's kind of right, but you have to think about that, yeah, and be able to carry that. And even Ramsey kind of messing with Billy, being like, oh yeah, you've done it now, ain't you? Billy, the killer crow. The fact of the matter is, you ain't never going to have another peaceful night. You can see how rattled the whole situation is, because that was the first time Billy's ever killed anyone. It's like, sure, you might have like hurt someone, and even then, it's like, you never actually had to do it. You might have scammed people, sure, but you never like directly hurt someone, let alone killed someone. Be there while someone died too. You know, he wrote down Silas's words to his wife, Grace, which Bass goes to visit her. Turns out she's blind, and you're just like, jeez. And she's like, he was with another woman, wasn't he? It's like, yeah, it seemed like they were familiar. Were you one who done it? It's like, no. He's like, basically, it was kind of, he didn't throw it at Billy, but he kind of took a lot of onus on it, because he's like, at the end of the day, Silas was not just Billy's responsibility. He's like, he was our responsibility, mine as well. So, him not even reading the letter to her, speaking from his heart, because he wasn't just speaking to Grace, he was also speaking for himself, thinking about Jenny and his family, because, like I said, who knows how long he's been gone, because even Jenny's dealing with the quiet, and even Sally's old enough to be like, yeah, it is kind of quiet without Dad here. Been gone for so long, because he wanted to go home, see his family, be able to sleep in his own bed, so he's probably going, who knows, weeks at a time, maybe months. I'm not going to equate it as the same thing, but I kind of get that, like because I know that was like something. It's not the same thing, but my dad's a truck driver, and I'm just equating, like, I know for my dad, he always talks about this thing when I was younger, when I begged him not to go, because my dad, because he's a truck driver, he'd be going like days at a time because of work and stuff. So, and for him, he's like, he always bring that story up from time to time, because he's like, me as a little kid crying and telling him not to go, like, it made him sad. He's like, that broke, like, he would always tell me, he's like, that line broke, he was like, you saying that as a kid broke my heart, you know? And I feel like I vaguely remember that, but I mean, this was like, 20 plus years ago, so, well, like, well over 2 decades ago, so it's like, I can, my point is, I can equate that understanding from, someone in Bass's case of, like, God knows how long he's been away from his family, and, a situation where, I mean, there are bounties on your head. People are going to gun for you because of your line of work, but also your line of work in general makes it so that you might not come back to them. So there's a give and take with that, because you're working a lot. You're trying to make an honest living for your family. You're trying to do right by people. You're trying to do your job, and it's dangerous, and it's just, just wants to come home to his family and be able to, and it just missing them from being so far away. And so it makes you wonder, what did Silas actually say in that letter? Because even Grace said that line of, she's like, oh, it's awfully sweet that you brought that to me, but it's also kind of sad too that Silas had all this opportunity to say stuff to me and he never did. It's only when he's gone and never coming back that he has all this stuff to say, Because she even said, like, he was never home that often anyway, but still, it doesn't make it suck any less, so. But I am curious to see what this whole situation means for Billy going forward. I think it is going to change him. I think it's going to be a rough patch for Billy, but I think this is going to be just part of his journey of growing. It's just kind of like experiencing something like this. The hardship of this, I think, will help grow and continue to make him a better person, I think, in the end. Because even the lady was like, yeah, come see me, like, kind of if you don't die out there. And, so we'll see how things kind of play out on that front. But speaking of Jenny, they went to church and she runs into Edwin again. I'm assuming this is the first time they've seen each other in all that time, because she was almost shocked to see him. So since their encounter in episode, was that 2, I believe? Yeah. I believe that was episode 2. Yeah, I think that's the last time they've seen each other in that time period. But he's here because a lot of the promises, things he was talking about back then, he's trying to rally enough money and support to do it here once again, so that so many, because it seems like Jenny and them might be the only ones who actually own their land, because she was the only one that kind of raised her hand. And everyone's like, see, like, I want that for all of us. Some land that we don't have to go to white folk for, something that we can have that is our own, that can never be taken away. Which Jenny had that whole conversation with Sally about, right, the piano might have been like my master's at the time, but it's like the music was mine. And, always find something in life that can be yours, that can never be taken away. So... Which, speaking of Sally, she had that cute moment with Arthur where it's like, yeah, your mom's going to be upset when she finds out, yeah, she might tan my eye. She might even tan yours, then shoot you. And Arthur's like, oof. But it was sweet. He was reading this poem to her, and it's like, yeah, I wrote this. And she's like, yeah, I know who actually wrote that. He's like, I could have wrote it, but she already wrote it, so there would have been no point. So, but he said this really sweet line, me being the romantic I am. I love that line of him being like, love is something good and perfect for the first time, happening again and again and again. I was like, ooh, me being the sucker for a good love story. I was like, I really, really like that line. It's like, I like some like poetic lovey-dovey stuff like that. I'm like, that's actually a really good line. Because obviously, in my head, it just, lines about love, you immediately go back to that WandaVision line. What was it? What is grief if not love persevering? Stuff like that really gets me, so I just thought that was kind of neat. But it was interesting, Edwin's conversation, because he has like Esme, who is someone that knows Jenny as well, and they're sitting down talking, and even him making that line, because even Esme knew like, that's kind of, you probably shouldn't have. He's like, so how many have you? Oh, your husband. Like, the fact is, he goes out there, takes it on jobs that no one would, like, on native land and stuff. And it's like, hey, at the end of the day, like, how many men has your husband sent to kind of see our Heavenly Father? Which even Esme was kind of, and you could tell like that bothered Jenny, because it wasn't like it felt so backhanded to say that. Maybe he didn't think much of it, but it's just like, yeah, Bass doesn't like feel great about killing people. He does if he has to, but it's not something he goes out of his way to do. But for her, she was like, even Bass believes like, one life is too many. Trying to make it like, I think for her, it's like, let me fix any narrative you have about my husband. Like, fact is, he is not all gung-ho of like, yeah, just because he's got a badge doesn't mean he's ready just to kill people out there. That might not even just be 100% on him. That might also be like every criminal he's ever caught that he's brought back, that Judge Parker's hung. Like, maybe that still falls on him in that capacity too. So maybe that comment was about that as well. But even Esme was kind of, ugh. But Jenny comes from the perspective of, yes, like being hopeful and kind of having the word of God, like having these very great and beautiful words. It's fine and dandy, but that doesn't build the land that you were saying. Which he's like, no, I get it. He's like, the thing that I'm asking is going to take hard work, sweat, blood, and treasure, to make happen. But when it does happen, I will make it a reality. Because they were talking about using some of the indigenous people's lands, which even Jenny was like, yeah, I'm curious like what they're going to say about that. Because it's like, yeah, this country, they already have a very complicated relationship with people coming to do stuff on their land. I mean, I guess it would be more of an amicable thing of like, because it's like, saying that also does come from that place of, well, you want something of your own, sure, but you would be taking it from someone else. It's that give and like, not even give and take. It's like, stuff was taken from indigenous people, stuff was taken from black folk. Like, it's just, so are we going to take from someone else just to fill the void of what was taken from us and just to make our own? Maybe the thought was like, right, we'll carve out some land of our own we'll talk to the indigenous people that live here, and then we will like end up like taking some of that land or buying it off of them most likely and building something of our own. The difference is we're not just going to come up and snatch it like white folk did. We will pay for it, hence the blood and treasure of it all, But we'll see how things kind of play out and if that really ends up playing out the way Edwin thinks it does, because it is, once again, Jenny's coming from it from she's coming at it from like, yeah, she's hopeful, but I don't think she's for her it feels like such a pipe dream, but for Edwin it's like, no, I'll make it a reality. And Edwin seems like he's a good guy, but we'll see, how that all turns out. Some very, very interesting developments. I'm curious to see where all of it takes us going forward into the next episode. We are at the halfway point in the series, so it's going to be interesting to see where everything takes us going forward from here, storyline-wise, what's next for Bass and Billy, as well as just the Reeves family as a whole, and just all these other little, plot threads that are happening around the family in so many regards. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.